Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the incredibly fascinating way our brain splits visual and sensory information into two distinct physical highways. Have you ever wondered how you can seamlessly recognize a coffee cup and in the exact same split second know exactly how to shape your hand to pick it up? It feels like one seamless, unified conscious experience, right? Well, actually, under the hood, your brain is running two completely separate operations. Here is how we're breaking it down today. First, the brain's two highways. Second, the ventral what pathway. Third, the dorsal where and how pathway. Fourth, what happens when one pathway breaks. And fifth, looking beyond vision at hearing and attention.
All right, part one, the brain's two highways.
Okay, let's lay the foundation for how visual information actually travels once it leaves your eyes and enters the cortex. So when light hits your retina, that information shoots down the optic nerve, passes through a sensory gateway called the thalamus, and arrives right at the primary visual cortex at the very back of your head. But here is where the magic really happens. After processing basic details like the orientation of edges, the data actually splits. It's physically routed into two specialized diverging processing streams. Your brain literally divides its labor right from the get-go.
It's a literal fork in the road inside your head. We've got the ventral stream, often called the what pathway, moving downwards toward the temporal lobe. And at the exact same time, we have the dorsal stream, the where pathway, moving upwards toward the parietal lobe. As information travels further along these distinct paths, the visual stimuli required to activate the neurons become increasingly complex.
To put it really simply, our main focus today is contrasting these two networks. We're looking at the system responsible for the naming of an object against the system responsible for doing something with or interacting with an object. It's a fundamental shift from looking at the input requirements, like what am I seeing, to the output requirements, what am I going to do about it? Which brings us to part two, ventral, the what pathway. Let's zoom in on that lower pathway first, which is entirely dedicated to identification. The absolutely crucial point here is that this pathway builds our conscious recognition of the world. It processes form, identity, and color. By the time visual data reaches the medial temporal lobe along this route, the neurons are performing highly specialized tasks. For example, there are specific cortical regions tailored exclusively for recognizing faces. Researchers have even found individual neurons in this region that respond specifically to the face of a single specific person, like the actor Jennifer Aniston. I mean, how wild is that? Ultimately, this is the stream that lets you identify a letterbox, read a word, or consciously recognize your best friend. Moving right along to part three, dorsal, the where and how pathway. Now, let's look at the other highway, up in the parietal lobe. The dorsal stream honestly couldn't care less what you are looking at. Instead of asking what an object is, this system calculates exactly where it is in space and precisely how your body needs to move to interact with it. Originally, researchers just called it the where pathway, but as the science advanced, they realized it was doing way more heavy lifting. It calculates how to reach out and grab a cup, transforming visual data from a map centered on your eyes into a 3D spatial map centered on your hands and body. And that is exactly why it's now widely known as the how stream. Part 4. When one pathway breaks. To truly understand how a brain pathway works, we have to look at what happens when it breaks down. And this brings us to the incredibly fascinating, highly studied clinical case of patient DF. Patient DF suffered specific brain damage to her ventral stream, that lower what pathway we just talked about. Because of this, she developed a condition called visual agnosia. Her basic vision was perfectly fine, but her brain simply couldn't put the pieces together to consciously recognize or name basic everyday objects. Yet, because her dorsal how pathway remained completely untouched, researchers discovered something absolutely astonishing. Researchers set up this brilliant experiment. They showed her a circular board with a slot in it, kind of like a mail slot, and they could rotate it to different angles. When they asked her to just look at the slot and verbally report its orientation, or match a card to its angle visually, she failed completely. Her results were totally scattered. But, and here is the crazy part, when they handed her a card and simply asked her to reach out and physically post it through the slot, her intact dorsal how pathway completely took over. Her hand rotated to the exact perfect angle every single time, gliding right through the slot. This led to the famous observation that for patient DF, the hand can see better than the eye. This was a massive aha moment in cognitive neuroscience.
It proves that consciously seeing what an object is and knowing how to physically interact with it are completely separate parallel systems running in the brain. Her hand knew exactly the orientation and location of the slot, even though her conscious mind had absolutely zero idea what she was looking at.
And finally, part 5, beyond vision, hearing and attention.
What's truly remarkable is that this division of labor isn't just a quirk of vision. As we map the brain, we see this exact same dorsal and ventral split across our other major cognitive functions. Take our attention networks, for instance. We have a dorsal attention network that is totally goal-directed. It focuses intensely on your current expectations, like actively searching your messy desk for your keys. But we also have a ventral attention network, and this acts as a stimulus-driven, flexible circuit breaker. Think about it. If you only had the goal-directed dorsal system, you'd be dangerously inflexible. The ventral system is there to suddenly snap your concentration if something unexpected and highly important happens, like if you suddenly smell smoke, or a ferocious animal appears while you're busy looking for those keys. We even see this exact architecture in hearing. There's an auditory ventral what stream processing the meaningful content of speech, and a dorsal how stream linking those speech sounds to the motor memory of how your mouth needs to move to actually produce them. We also see it in how we process faces. The ventral route handles the conscious recognition of a face, but the dorsal route handles the affective, emotional feeling of familiarity. If that affective dorsal route gets damaged, a person might consciously recognize a loved one, but feel absolutely zero emotional connection to them. This leads to Papgras delusion, which is the eerie, heartbreaking belief that a loved one has been replaced by an identical imposter. It is just incredible to realize how modular our experience really is. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If your brain is constantly building two completely separate realities, one ventral reality dedicated purely to knowing and identifying the world, and one dorsal reality dedicated entirely to physically acting and moving within it, which one represents your true conscious experience? It really makes you wonder who is actually driving the machine. Thanks for exploring the brain's dual pathways with me today, and keep questioning how you perceive the world around you.